Hi, my name is Roseanne, and this is my EDL 854 Module 12 case study, the Budget Debacle. If we analyze the case study and we look at what happened, this case study focused around a yearly fundraiser that was headed by a school's foundation. They were raising funds to purchase supplemental curriculum materials. The foundation approved this fundraiser proposal. It was a raffle for cash event. And at the end of it all, the foundation's president was arrested the night of the fundraiser and later charged with a misdemeanor. Who was involved? The principal of the school. His name was Mr. Carl Santos. The foundation was represented by a parent volunteer. So the president or chair, his name was Mr. Barely. He was a Harvard graduate and had some connections with other personnel in district and in the community. And then the school site curriculum committee was also involved as the funds were helping them purchase material. When did this fundraiser occur? It wasn't directly stated, but we can assume that it was in the evening during the school year. The arrest itself occurred the night of the fundraiser, and then the charge of the misdemeanor later that week. Where? Briardale Elementary School is a kindergarten through fifth grade school, roughly 600 students, and the community itself is very diverse and close. As we look into the ethical and legal issues presented in this case study, the legal being there's obviously a great violation of school board policies, obviously the illegal activity regarding the raffle for cash event, and then inappropriate authorization of fundraising. If we move into ethical issues, there's an inappropriate use of power, questionable operational systems, potential violation of the parent-volunteer agreement. If we analyze my synthesized summary, it states, Briardale Elementary School's foundation supported a raffle for cash community fundraiser that was proposed and planned by their eager new foundation president. However, the event was ultimately canceled after the president was arrested by the local sheriff during the event and later charged with a misdemeanor. If we look in the people involved in this case study, once again, we have the principal, Mr. Santos. He's the instructional leader. He manages the budget. We're assuming he coached the foundation's president in his new role. He did not directly authorize this fundraiser, and he's embarrassed by the outcome. The Briardale Foundation, these foundations are formed at each site within this district, and a parent representative is president and chair. Briardale's foundation president, his name is Mr. Barely. He is a new parent. He's very motivated. He is the one that proposed this fundraiser to the foundation, and he unfortunately was charged with a misdemeanor, and he's now on probation. And lastly, we have the sheriff. He was tipped off about the fundraiser, and he ultimately arrested Mr. Barely. If we look at their sources of power, Mr. Santos, he expressed positional power within this case study as he's the legitimate leader and he has authority. The Briardale Foundation as a whole expressed passive power. They were involved in the process by supporting the proposal. The foundation president, Mr. Barely, he demonstrated expert power. He used the prior knowledge and experience he had from college, and then he legitimized what he wished to do. And the sheriff, due to his profession and authority, he expressed personal and professional power. As we look at the place, so the school once again is Briardale Elementary School. It's an involved, diverse, very close community. The fundraiser itself was open to the public. We're assuming that this elementary school is a public school, which would indicate it serves both general and special education populations, and that there are various parent-led organizations on campus. In this case study in particular, we have the Briardale Foundation. Looking into our prioritized information, the stakeholders involved, we obviously have the school and district administration, staff members, the Briardale Foundation, students, and then the community. If we look at the impact that this case study has, it has a negative impact on the school culture and community relationships. There could potentially be a misconstrued messages to families and staff. Potentially, the school could be questioned of their motive or intent. The community members may have assumed that everyone was aware of this situation and fundraiser. And obviously, there is a need for stricter fundraising policies. If we look at who exactly needs to be consulted regarding this, appropriate school and district leaders need to be communicated with. The school board needs to be consulted with. The foundation should meet, and parents in the community should be addressed. A decision of how to proceed could be made after the appropriate communications and consultations are done. Obviously, there needs to be a meeting with multiple parties, a discussion of outlined responsibilities and expectations, and then a review of fundraising policies and school goals. If we look at our options of this case study, we have option A, which essentially we could ignore the activity and carry on. Option B, you as the principal could take all financial authority away from volunteers and employees. You can make yourself the sole financial authority on campus moving forward. Option C, you could apologize to the community as principal, temporarily revoke financial access and authority. You could review policies, train employees and parent volunteers, and heavily emphasize fundraising procedures. Option D, you could essentially turn all of this to district and the governing board. You could give your authority for site finances away and kind of step back and remove yourself from the situation. If we look at possible consequences for each option, option A, by ignoring this, you would have a negative community-school relationship. This could inhibit your future fundraisers and the impact that that could have. And then another inappropriate occurrence most likely is going to happen if you would ignore this situation. Option B, you now are the only financial authority on campus. Option C, this would possibly mend or at least begin to mend hurt relationships. It would possibly regain your trust as principal, educate and train appropriate personnel, take full financial responsibility as the principal on campus. Option D, you would surrender your authority and financial position on campus, and now you would report to district staff. As we're further evaluating these options, looking at the pros and cons of each, option A, a pro of this, I suppose, would be that you're demonstrating a trust and belief in your current staff, that they made correct decisions and that you're standing by them. A con would obviously be the damaged relationships and the negative future impact on school events. Option B, a pro, would be by revoking everyone's access and privileges, you would be the one source of financial authority. You could ensure appropriate action. The con would be there is no help, little help, and you're not following the policies as designed. As we move into option C, a pro would obviously be the apology, you showing that you want to mend these relationships. You would rein in the misconduct, review your policies, and educate and train employees. This would be both staff and volunteers. The con is that this is time consuming. There's a lot more steps in this option. And the veteran employees and staff or staff members who, have been quote unquote by the book their whole career, they may be upset because they might just see it as another training, or they might see it as something that they're in trouble for someone else's wrongdoing. Option D, by turning your authority to district, the pro would be you would carry on with little misuse because they are now in control. A con was, you are the principal on campus and you would be giving up your authority, and you would have to seek approval from district moving forward. In my opinion, after evaluating these, the best option would be option C. This option allows you to be proactive and address the situation immediately. The implementation of this option would be the most attentive, aligning with district policies and the school vision. It is necessary to review your financial policies regularly and train staff. By making this decision, you are able to evaluate the situation independently, demonstrate your knowledge, communicate effectively, an attempt to maintain a positive, collaborative working relationship with all stakeholders. There is some information to consider, however. You would need to consider how to promote a collaborative effort among all stakeholders. Something that needs to be done is identify roles and responsibilities. Executing financial authority and review necessary policies is something to consider while making this decision. How exactly you are managing your resources in school operations, how these would affect your school level governance, and ways that you can improve your management. And lastly, there is a need to review and revise appropriate financial policies. So this would be direction from the principal. You need to be clear and concise and have a common goal. And you can't single volunteers or staff members out. This has to apply to everyone, especially those with financial roles. So moving into how exactly we would implement option C. So first, you would apologize to the school's community and outside stakeholders. Next, you would ensure your own understanding of school policies and make edits appropriately. These would need to be approved by the school board or district leaders. You would need to put together a comprehensive plan of policies, your expectations, district expectations, the responsibilities of staff members and volunteers, and the school goals. Your expectation of financial activity on your campus is, needs to be clearly communicated. Then you would need to outline the chain of command and possibly provide a flow chart of appropriate financial decision making. You would include legal and ethical policies that need to be protected. And finally, you would present and educate all employees and volunteers, especially those who work with finances. By doing all of this, you would ensure effective operational systems are developed to ensure student and school development. When you go ahead and implement this option, this could lead to further steps. And these steps would only enhance policies and practices for the future. So one of which would be that you could possibly collaborate with internal and external stakeholders and create a list of pre-approved fundraisers for school organizations to utilize. You possibly would have to look into creating a financial understanding agreement for parent volunteers especially. But I would, obviously open that up to if they are employed by the district as well and handle finances. And then lastly, you would want to ensure your policies are outlined in the employee handbook and a parent volunteer handbook. These are my references. Thank you very much for listening.